Which one of these am I going to let in the house to play my Nintendo? And... Okay, you can come in too. Gen Wars. Welcome to Gen Wars, the generational podcast between the Gen Xers and the Millennials. I'm your host, Nick, and with me as usual is the... I don't even know what to call these guys this time, but on the Gen X side of things, we have our good friend Cam, and on the Millennial side of things, we have our good friends Stephen and Katherine. How's everybody doing today?
Doing pretty good.
I'm just feeling the Christmas spirit.
Feeling the Christmas. You are decked out in the Christmas spirit.
Not even in the mindset yet.
It's in 2 weeks. I mean,
I know it's coming up quick.
We recorded this last month and totally
very
quick. It's the middle of October recording this.
So we watched 8-Bit Christmas starring Neil Patrick Harris and I don't even know who this was directed
Steve
by.
Zahn.
And Steve Zahn is in it. Michael Dowse? Okay.
Yeah, Michael Dowse, yeah.
Okay. Would anybody like to kick this off of this very Christmas story retelling remake?
Whose pick was this?
I legit didn't catch that the first time I watched this film.
This makes all the more sense now that I know that it was a Stephen pick, but carry on.
I
Tell
guess
it, Stephen.
This is also a newer movie in the Christmas genre, so
2021.
2021. So if you haven't seen this, spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what's going on, but it's kind of
we're gonna spoil Christmas for you
when you watch the trailer for this movie. It's about Nintendo, and it's just like the Red Ryder BB gun that we're aimed at a very specific audience here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't it about these...
Me and Cam over here.
Well, I think there's about the same like time gap when because what year was A Christmas Story made?
85.
85, and that took place in the 70s?
No, it took place in the 40s.
40s. Okay, so so we're looking at 30 years. So
Maybe the 50s.
So
it checks out.
I always thought it was the 50s because I figured.
Yeah, it's 50s. It's 50s. You're right.
It's no, but it's not. It says It says it's the. Sorry, go.
A Christmas Story. I didn't even know it was an 80s film for a long time. That's how good of a period piece it is.
Yes.
Oh fudge! I didn't even think about that. It's a period.
Oh, darn it. Yeah, I don't think this movie, just out of the gates, very much A Christmas Story, like, emulation, pun intended.
Yeah.
And I think they did a very, very serviceable job. I almost want to say better than A Christmas Story Christmas, the sequel.
The sequel to this?
Yeah, which I actually have seen.
Story?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit better than that in some aspects and falters in other. I would love to compare the two at some point, maybe next year. But this really, for me, very targeted, like just like retro gaming, clear, like it sold itself as A Christmas Story for the next generation, and same time gap because the 80s was 40 years ago. Good luck everybody else surviving that detrimental blow.
Just gonna hold on, we're just gonna go under. Bye.
Do you have your will written up?
No, when I need to.
Yeah.
That's rough.
But that was my general interest, like just like, oh, it's a Red Ryder BB gun. That doesn't mean diddly to me, but an NES, absolutely. I was one of the ones that was going out every morning at like 3 a.m. trying to get an NES Classic for a while.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, your whole thing of getting a Switch.
Yeah,
I was there. I was involved in that. Listening to him whine every day when they were sold out.
Exactly. So I know this story. It's me. I know this story.
I know this story all too well. I don't remember when. I know I got a Nintendo around this time. I was trying to think about it. I was trying to place it. I was wondering if my mom has any pictures of me and my dad and my brother playing it. It's very, obviously we're at pushing 40 years at this point of when I would have had it. I was probably somewhere between. When did it officially come out?
I thought it was
85.
Okay.
And it was big in 86.
Okay.
So we're really pushing next
big.
year. Like, it's 40 years.
Yeah. So when I try to like go back in my memory to think, like it's like looking at it in a crystal ball where it just has that like vignette around the thing of it's that feathered vignette, and I could picture my dad and myself playing Duck Hunt, but I can't put a time. I can't see how old I was, but it was around this time. So like this movie definitely resonated with me, as well as all the children and everything that was going on was very prevalent in my world, which I'm assuming was a lot of people's. And at least Cam, I don't know if you felt any of that, especially like the wreath selling. I don't think we did wreaths. It was mostly like wrapping paper,
Pizza.
popcorn, those kind of things.
You have the pizza. What kind of pizza is it in St. Louis?
It's like
Steven?
TJ's or JJ's or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's
TJ's
Pizza.
TJ's Pizza. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys sold pizzas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were
All right.
good. They were
That
good.
might have
It was a
went over
good
a little.
price too.
I know y'all do it different over there, but yes.
We're very food motivated in the Midwest.
St. Louis style
Clearly.
pizza. What's up?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get me one of them this Christmas.
Yes.
So I don't know if like I occasionally will get kids coming through. I live in a complex, so like there are occasionally kids coming through here selling stuff. But going door to door was a thing. Like it kind of
Dated.
dated, but like one of those touchstone things that we did in the 80s, whether that was paper routes or going
Girl
to
Scout
sell
cookies.
Girl Scout cookies, yeah, or selling the thing for the Halloween, the holiday wrapping paper wreaths, whatever it was.
Yep.
Football or any sporting raffle tickets for
What about
those kind of things.
chocolates?
Chocolates, yeah, that was another huge one. Like,
Chocolates. I remember
yeah.
chocolates.
and I was
The
always
$1.50 chocolate bar.
tempted to eat them all, and I'm like, I gotta sell these. I can't eat them all.
My kid's Halloween
My
confiscated.
demand is bigger than my supply.
My wife just confiscated the Halloween candy. Is going to donate it. I'm like, I was
Smart.
working
No,
on
no,
that.
no.
Where do
Put
you
it-
donate Halloween candy?
Put it in
Just
the
like
freezer.
youth centers or whatever.
Put it in the
No.
freezer.
'Tis the season, you know.
That's smart. Our Halloween candy's just chilling on the table.
Yeah, no, or put it in the freezer for later,
Donate
and then
your
it'll always
leftover
be there.
Halloween candy for
I
some
don't
Christmas.
want frozen Tootsie Rolls.
Okay, maybe not
Dental
those.
damage.
Lord.
How'd you lose your molars? Well, you know.
But I don't remember there being. I remember the prizes being
Mediocre.
great. No, I remember at least when I was a kid, we were like, ooh, but I don't ever remember it being to the level of a Nintendo, especially in
Like
'88.
sweet encyclopedias.
Sweet. Oh,
You want a Huffy BX bike? You've got to supply the
The M, yeah.
the anti-video game like mindset was it's just so visceral and aggravating to me. The new age crunchy families have that same, like the exact same thing of just like video games, the mindless, the frame rates, they make kids go crazy, and it just drives me nuts. I'm sorry, whatever crunchy individuals that I have upset with that, but you're just objectively wrong. I'm sorry.
See, I don't remember
to
that.
his opinions.
I don't remember that being. I mean,
Yeah,
again,
the
I was
Mortal
too young.
Kombat stuff and everything.
Yeah, but that was
Grand
I
Theft
guess that
Auto?
was around that time. Grand
This
Theft Auto
is-
didn't come till later.
But
No, I'm talking about.
this is the foundation. This is where it
The
started.
DeLorean.
Well, I just don't remember it at this time. I don't remember it at
'Cause
this
Doom?
point in time.
Satan.
Doom didn't come up out till PCs were more prevalent, and that
They're
wasn't.
like into
The
the
Super Nintendo
next
era.
decade.
I'm more familiar with
Yeah.
Super Nintendo era, but
All right.
so maybe
This was before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't there a whole bunch of arcade hate that was just transferred over because there's Mortal Kombat and everything in the arcades? Well, that's still 91.
So if you want to get your history lesson here,
yeah.
in
All right, old man.
83
Oh, pops! I'm so excited.
83,
on his
we're
knee and let him
hitting
tell you a
the
story.
absolute bottom of the barrel. Like, we used to say they had gold up in them hills, but they wound up in landfills. And as a result of just flooding the market with really poor games, everyone was burnt out on that. So the fact that Nintendo pushed through in that time period in Japan and then pushed a North American unit in 85, they redesigned. They didn't want to call it a console anymore. It was a control center, I think, or a command
Entertainment system.
I'm waiting for him to jump up. I was
no,
like
the entertainments, like the Nintendo Entertainment System, but like they separated the word console from it, and they wanted to kind of change the market, and they did so. They got rid of the joystick. They have game pads, and that when that hit in 85, it was huge. It continued over into 86. And I got my first Nintendo in the summer of 87. And I mean, I never looked back from that moment.
Yeah,
I love solving shit.
I want to pinpoint that. There has to be a picture or something. There it is.
Oh, you have one of those?
Yes, this is a
He's
Famicom.
got the Famicom.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
The family computer.
Yes. I have that, and then this is the NES Classic that looks like the toaster.
I think I gave that to you, didn't I?
I bought it
Or
from
so
you, but yes.
Yes, you gave it to me with exchange for money. Yeah.
I gave it to you and then I tipped you. Okay, fine.
Well done.
But yeah, just I love these mini consoles. Just FYI, just look at the size.
I have one myself.
They're so good.
My wife got one for me for Christmas and had it modded, so it's got everything on it. Yeah,
You're gonna get her in
it's
trouble.
Fun. So back to the Nintendo hype. They really did revolutionize the game market. They breathed life back into it. And it wasn't until we got into the Super Nintendo area, into 91 and post, where Street Fighter and Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat are now at the forefront of arcade games, and the real life depiction of violence is what started the next one. So that's part of the 16-bit era. The only fighting game that they had in this era would have been Karate Champ. And Karate Champ has some of the worst controls ever designed. It is really, really it's a struggle. So the 64-bit Christmas special that we saw on the screen was not a real game that any Nintendo could have played at that time, let alone a Super Nintendo. Those sprites were so large, it was borderline Neo Geo, and that would have struggled. We definitely jumped. I don't know why they jumped the shark on that, because they showed every other Nintendo game in its real form, and we got to really talk about how absolutely dog crap the Power Glove was.
The classic, the most important accessory.
I mean, this is gonna go right over Steven's head, but F you, Fred Savage and the Wizard, because you really did try to sell that Power Glove as something it was not. That kid on Rad Racer, and he's just going back and forth. I'm glad they brought it over here and the kid couldn't do anything, because that's what it was like.
Yeah, 89, The Wizard came out, and that's because they were dropping Mario 3 at that time.
And they did that
That's
tournament.
Power Glove was
way late in the life cycle of Nintendo.
We need to watch The Wizard.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We're going to add that one to the list for sure.
I agree. Yeah, they definitely put out a lot of games by the time they got to that point. So the one thing I'll say about this movie is the time period kind of crunch that they throw in here where Nintendo's really popular. These games are out there. They're in this weird fighting thing. And then there's also Cabbage Patch craziness. Those didn't exactly coincide at the same time as
smooshy.
what this movie would like you to believe. And I guess that's okay
when you're looking back at it.
Yeah, I mean, think of how you try to what you just talked about in the beginning of this. Like, I don't know, you have this vignette of like what a time period is, and I guess you can kind of just crunch these things together. You know, maybe it wasn't that Christmas that Dad had to go talk to David Cross and get a Cabbage Patch Kid. Maybe it was the Christmas or two before that, but you know, you just kind of like slipped it.
83 was when Cabbage Patch Kids came
right.
out.
Right. So we're in the Atari age when Cabbage Patch was out there.
Cabbage Patch Kids were fairly popular.
There was one year that there was like the big shortage and like people got trampled and stuff. I don't remember the exact year. It might have been like 85, maybe 4.
Probably 84. You know, for the holiday season.
Because it was after like the CEO like finagled it from the original. I actually watched a nice little documentary on Cabbage Patch Kids. It's on YouTube.
It was 83, the year that it came out.
Okay, it was 83.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shortages and riots.
Yeah, it was unreliable narrator.
For Cabbage Patch Kids.
Unreliable narrator.
There's some years apart in this story, so as someone who did live through that and really did not know about this movie until recently, that definitely was a miss on me. And that game too. It was so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah, they definitely. Well, I mean, he did preface when he was starting to tell when Neil Patrick Harris was starting to tell his daughter the story of how he was like 85, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, somewhere in the 80s, kind of just like mushed all this time together.
They did.
It's like the Goldbergs. The Goldbergs are never consistent with their
continuity.
It was.
I think every episode was, you know, whatever the
it's based on a memory. So
October 21st, 1980
accurate.
something.
80 something. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, they set the
like,
stage
wow,
for
that's
that
a long 80s.
Unreliable narrator kind of like situation, and it's like, oh, it's dad lore, like it's gonna be a little bit more, you know.
So I was thinking about this, and I didn't have time between my whole phone situation before this and whatnot, and getting this all squared away. Somebody who's watched The Christmas Story does all the stuff back in the 40s, does it have the warm glow, the softness to it that I remember it having? And then like present day is a little more stark, a little more normal, shot normally, where we have this look back in the warm and fuzzy kind of painting of what he remembers his childhood being.
I don't think they had too many shots of present day. I thought it kind of just kicked off and it was all shot as memory.
Okay, yeah, I guess he was doing the voice. It's been a while since it's been.
I don't think they had any current era shots. I think he was just the narrator.
Okay, so
Okay,
so
it's a little Princess Bridey.
No, because
Princess
Bride does cut too.
Where they're doing this kind of present day story time cut, never ending story too, if you want to. It's like they're just going back and forth in that space. You know, they're really just copying other movies that have done.
So I guess what I was
But it wasn't Alien, so I'm not really offended.
After watching it and thinking about it, I was kind of hoping for this, like a more of a war, like what my memory, and I'm guessing Cam's memory, is of that time period. It's not crisp like me looking around my room right now. It's has this air of warmth, of nostalgia, of memories to it. Smear a little Vaseline on the lens, and I would have been like, oh,
well,
maybe that's
wouldn't have been distracting for the whole movie.
Yeah. No. I'm not actual Vaseline.
Not necessarily. So
the DP's just like, hold on.
Is that a straight like
perfect?
Edit solve? Like, could you have like a cut where they like put a little bit of like I don't know, depth of field or some edit, or is it
or at
or is it
least
a
enter in
filming
that.
thing? Yeah.
Like from like the scene fade in or something, it kind of drops you into a memory rather than just shooting another scene in the same.
Well, I liked how they
shot.
dropped you into the memory where he goes into the Paperboy video game, and it goes to him riding his
riding
bike.
the bike.
I thought that was really cool.
And then the continual switching of the things. And she's like, "Were you wearing a helmet?" And he's
hilarious.
like, "Yeah, I was wearing a helmet."
Of course
I was.
Was
Of
it
course,
green?
and it was
Yeah,
green.
it was green.
Yeah, it's green. No problem.
was
but
fun.
it's a lot of it's more forethought. Like you have to think about. You would have to. I mean, you could do it in post. It would be a lot more difficult. But this is where it was
Princess
something
Bride didn't do anything like that, did it? I don't think so.
No.
did not. No, only because it was
because he
more.
was reading from the book.
But it was
Yeah.
also kind of felt very like almost like they were set pieces in a different time in a fantasy world. So it was very much set apart from the real present world that we were in with
Yeah.
Fred Savage and what's his face? I can't think of his name right now, even though I just
Old
listened to a
Grandpa.
pod. Yes, but
Columbo.
yes. Why can't I think of his name? Damn it. Anyways, it's one of those things where you do that in pre-production, so you have that forethought to say, hey, we're going to film all this stuff with this very specific lighting or these very specific lenses to bring that feel. There were scenes that felt like that, but then there were also scenes that were just, on the playground, and I was like, oh, this could have been yesterday. I mean, it was 2021 when they shot it, so
Sure.
there was one
Peter
thing
Falk.
that really perturbed me, and it was so minor, and I bet none of you saw it. Anybody have a guess what it might be?
Can you allude to it a little bit?
Can you give us a little hinty hint?
It's on the streets. It was outside.
Is it a car?
The ice?
The ice. That goddamn ice patch was not there. It was not a real ice patch. It never was there. It's totally digital. Every time they walk past, at one point it shifted over, and I was like, oh, come on, guys. Come on.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
one
catch
shot-
that at all.
One shot
I
where it
liked how the
shifted over.
ice-
Watch all of their feet. You can see the feathered masking on their feet as people walk by. And it was they even push past. They're going into the mall, so Santa's ringing his bell, and then they follow young Jake Doyle into the mall, and that's where I saw the ice like shift over, and I was like, oh, come on, guys. When he falls, you can see all the rotoed masking from the green screen. Or, however, it was rotoed masking. There was no green screen because they green
Production
screen.
value points.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunately one that took off. Again, it's so small.
But do you give
whole point of the
like
movie.
pandemic excuses here at this point? Because they probably had to pivot like production.
No, it's
No,
safety.
okay.
No, that's a safety issue. Like, hey, we're gonna put a bunch of ice down. Nobody slip on this ice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
I think that
Sure.
kind of gives them
Yeah.
a little bit of lenience then.
Okay, well, so then this can go into, we can't find a budget for this movie. We
Right.
were looking, and we haven't been able to find any sort of budget of what this was.
These documents have been burned.
Yeah. They were written off somewhere as a loss.
These documents
Along
have
with the
COVID on them. You
pandemic
can't
masks,
touch them.
yeah.
If you
But
have
that's
the
not
budget.
to say that, like, they didn't put, they got a lot of old cars. Like, that brought me back. Like, when when he was riding his bike, he drove past the car that my grandfather had. And I was like, oh my God, the same color and everything. I was like, the same baby blue
Got him.
Cutlass. I think it was a Cutlass or something
Cutlass
like that.
Supreme.
Oh, they rode in a minivan very similar to the one that I grew up with. So
Yeah, my dad had that minivan later, like in 92, 93, which he
Yeah.
bought used just to like get to and from work because he was like, I just need a crap car right now. And it was that
You could just
minivan,
buy
Ours was-
cars back then.
a different
ours
color.
was
Yeah,
baby
yeah.
blue. It wasn't like the paneling on it.
I better see some nostalgia scores coming in on this movie.
That also being the car that I, when I got old enough to drive, I was like, hey, Mom, can I have that car? And she's like, no, I'm not giving you a minivan so you can pile all your friends into it. And I'm like,
And do
so
stupid
you're going to give me a sedan that I can still pile all my friends in?
They'll be piled in. It could be safe or not.
Bingo.
Who hasn't put the short straw into the trunk of the sedan? Like,
This
it happens.
is not the movie. What is going? Like, it's not even on Box Office Mojo. What is
Uh-oh.
happening?
No way. Box Office Mojo doesn't even have the numbers.
What is We're out of here.
We stumbled into some kind of laundering scheme. Hold on.
HBO
But-
Max, what did you do?
What'd you do?
But this movie, I fell into the nostalgia of this movie, into the time that there was the kid, I forgot what the big kid's name was,
The
Jabrowski.
bully.
Jabrowski.
He's being typecasted a lot. I see a lot of TikTok
Has he?
clips of him being like a bully and
Oh,
stuff.
Josh.
He was 17 years old
Jagorsky.
when this was. Yeah, Jagorsky. There you go.
So was he actually like that old, or is that just a memory of Jake?
So
well, he said he was held back 7 times.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay.
yeah.
Well, that-
so there was a couple kids in my neighborhood who we didn't quite know how old they were. We knew they were older than us and they were bigger than us. But we were like, I don't know how old you are, but yes, we were tormented by that kid specifically that I'm thinking of.
Okay, I missed this. I missed the hold back 7 times. That's where I
Yeah.
was like, is
And-
this like, was he actually that old, or is this just a memory of him like playing on the bully being like enormous because he's a bully?
Well, I mean, was he actually held back
6
7
of one,
times?
half
So-
dozen the other. Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. The truth lies somewhere in the middle
He
of
was
that.
so big. He was held back 7 times. So yeah,
I mean,
totally.
we used
My helmet was green.
I lived in a cul-de-sac. They used to pile all the snow up at the end of the thing, and we used to play King of the Mountain on the snow mountain. He used to chuck us all off. So like that was very prevalent in my mind.
Are you wearing a green helmet?
No.
What about safety
Helmets.
goggles?
What?
Did you have
Yeah,
elbow
no.
pads?
Yeah. That was something this was a recent thing, is that my girlfriend and I were talking about riding bikes or something like that, and I was like, do I have to get a helmet? And she's like, yes, you have to get a helmet. I was like, helmets. I'm like, people wear helmets? She's like, yes, everywhere. Our friend was going skiing, and I'm like, you wear a helmet? And he's like, yeah, everyone wears helmets. And I was like, all right, I stopped skiing when I was 15. Nobody was wearing helmets
protect
except the
that noggin.
snowboarders. 'Cause they were
Have you ever hit your head?
Yes.
not fun.
What have you done?
So
It's no good.
That might be the
It's no
problem.
good. Apparently, you can
Is there
get
a little
really
bit-
big Godzilla
yes,
fascination.
yes.
Rattle that
be
brain
careful.
around, Nick.
Wear a helmet. Save a Godzilla.
I mean, he is the one that watched like 5 Godzilla movies in one sitting. So
He went in deep with that
I'm
movie.
convinced he's still suffering from a head injury. where,
correlation,
like, the jury's still out on that.
causation, like
No, he's still watching Godzilla.
I'm still on, yeah. It's never-ending loop.
Godzilla versus
Yeah, no,
Destroy.
I
Come on.
did. I probably should have wore a helmet when I was a kid. There was a time where my chain broke. I flipped over my handlebars and landed out in the middle of the street, knocked myself out cold, woke up and was like, I'm in the middle. Yeah, that too. Like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
So is this the start of your back problems?
Probably. Oh, rip this out of my ear. Yes, probably. Yeah. So there's a lot of things with this movie that resonated with me. The kid who watched all the movies that he shouldn't be watching at that age.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, I got to partake in those movies because
Yes.
you'd go
Naturally.
sleep over his house, and then his mom's not watching, paying any attention to what he's doing. So we're like,
Not one bit.
yeah, not at all. Let's watch Eddie Murphy Raw or Delirious or whatever. And you're like, I shouldn't be watching this.
Let's watch Nightmare
I
on
had
Elm
no
Street.
idea Mr. T did that.
That basement was sick, though. Just FYI.
Yes.
That was a nice basement.
So
That
Cam
poor,
brought up,
poor dog.
No.
you want to talk about the dog camp that you brought up earlier?
Oh, Lord. Yeah. So, for one, he said that it was a 48-inch
Or 42.
tube TV.
42.
You said
42-inch tube TV that definitely did not exist then.
No, I looked it up, and it said that
32.
they were extremely rare at best.
Well,
like 40 was kind of pushing it at the time in '88.
They were the hype family, so like I'll give them that.
But if you knew anybody like I did, anything bigger than a 30 or whatever,
a 27 was kind of like bonkers.
Yeah, but they went to rear projection. So
Yes.
like I knew somebody who had a rear projection that was like almost 50-inch rear projection. You were like, "What? This is the most amazing thing ever."
The other thing is, if that 300-pound mess of a TV came anywhere near landing on that dog, it is lights out. Even if it landed on just the foot, there would be no leg there whatsoever. They say that that's a 2-man lift TV, and that is even a struggle. It is so top or side heavy on it.
Yeah.
And if it landed on your foot, it would shatter it.
Yeah.
That 8-pound wet dog would be toast. It would be part of that floor for the rest of that house's life. You'd have to get rid of the entire house to get that dog out.
So I interpreted the movie that the dog totally died, and then you had the little exchange. The dog dies? What? And he's like, no, it totally is alive. It's we're just running this bit. Like every time, like maybe this is like a rewatchability score thing. Like every time, like you're giving this grievance of like, oh, it totally wasn't like that. It's like that's the joke. That's the hee funny. Like he's like, oh yeah, we wore helmets. Everything was fine, and the dog totally didn't die. It was all good. Like.
But did you catch the enormous dog buttons that everyone was wearing during the meeting? It wasn't just the one guy. Everybody had them on.
They're sold out.
Yeah. Do you remember, and this doesn't necessarily go for Nintendo, but I guess specifically for Nintendo, them having playable stations to play in a store? I thought that came later, but I don't remember.
It did come later in the life cycle. I would say that was closer to when they started doing like the Nintendo when they made the smaller version, the top loader. Closer to that time, I remember at Toys R Us they definitely had those stations up, and then it was on to Super Nintendo, and they definitely had playable spaces. There wasn't a lot of whole like places to play them. Thinking back, like
I didn't think there was.
At the mall or department stores, Sears was something that sold at the malls that also had electronics, but mostly Toys R Us was the place for that.
Speaking of stores where you can get great nostalgic Murph, you can go to this funky store. There's a Nintendo, Toys R Us looking maybe kind of similar things of a ton of defunct businesses over at Funky Store, where we do have playable stations totally that they're there, and it's not me telling a story, but go over to Funky Store. Like, check it out. You don't know what's over there until you go look at funky.store.
10 out of 10 on nostalgia.
Gen Wars rating.
Cam, this is also, I don't know if you guys had this because you would have had, but I remember listening to, I guess it was on TV too, but listening to some sort of radio for school closures. Just waiting to hear your town. Cam, you were in California at that time.
Yeah, right? I was in California,
yeah.
And the only time that California closed schools is when there was an earthquake, and everyone pretty much knew when there was an earthquake. So.
Good, significant indicators
there's no
of there's no school.
Yeah, like no one's like, I don't know, can we go to school today? Still looks smoggy. Might have to get up them hills first.
We had radio and cable like broadcast of like your school at these districts. It was always
waiting.
It was all alphabetical. You're like,
And mine started with the letter P, so you had to wait till the end.
Yeah. I had F, so it wasn't too bad, but it was not great. There's a lot of Fs.
I moved to New Jersey around the time period of this movie, and then yes, I had those kind of things, but in California, no. But we also had snow and really inclement weather, so yeah, you got to let people know.
Rain.
But...
It's raining today. Close it down in California.
Watch out! You might have to wear a sweatshirt today.
Oh, that's in Florida too. Careful.
Careful.
It's 50 degrees out.
The coach being in the group of children waiting to get picked to come into the house.
That's right.
I have money. He's like, I have cold hard cash. Like I was hoping that they were going to point him out and say something about it, but when they first did that wide shot, I was like, "Who's the old guy?" And then they started addressing it.
I think the self-awareness is very good now that we've addressed, like, hey, some of this stuff wasn't correct. Like,
yes.
It's unreliable narrator. There's a lot of embellishment in the storytelling, but it's aware of that. I like that. That was points for me. Speaking of points,
No.
Oh, their special plan to distract the teacher and the moms to get the Nintendo.
That was really
I
elaborate.
thought Stephen had some feelings about that one.
I don't like puke. I don't like the gimmick. It's not funny. No one should do it in cinema. It's not great. I hate it. I hated it. Don't like it.
Poor teacher.
I mean,
it wasn't funny.
Of SpaghettiOs, like, thinking about it does make me want to barf right now.
So should we watch Stand By Me?
Yes.
Yes.
That would be a good one for Steven to watch.
Yeah.
Get right into that.
Why do you do these things to me? I'm just
We're trying to educate you.
You know why?
Is it education or is this torture? I just don't know. I'm having PTSD from Time Bandits.
Still? You haven't got over that one yet?
No! I've never felt so much loss in my life.
I mean,
sorry,
if it was up to me, would have gone somewhere else instead of the Time Bandits. But yeah, I feel your pain. The pain is real and it's timeless.
Oh, the roller skating rink. I don't know how many of you went roller skating.
Yeah.
Also, the weird thing is, why was I don't know what. There was no. I don't know if she was a waitress, but why were you going across the rink with drinks? I mean, again, it was a stupid throwaway joke for the funny of it, but it was like, why are we crossing this rink?
She's new. She's new. We just hired. This is her first day.
I can't go all the way around. What am I supposed to do? Roll on these roller skates? No, there's definitely some weird things.
Oh, were the baseball cards legit? Were those made up? That
baseball card is legit. It is a real error.
I'm wondering, I don't think I have that card, but I have so many cards in my baseball, basketball, and football cards in my closet right now. Probably probably 90% of them aren't worth anything, but I'm wondering if I have that card.
So this movie is doing what it's supposed to do. Like, oh, I gotta go look.
I gotta go look. That's what everyone did during COVID and blew the market up.
Oh, I wonder when this movie came out. I wonder how this could have happened. Who blew up the video game market? Who blew up the trading card market?
I was gonna say they blew up the action figure market. Everybody went and dug all their stuff out.
Lord
they were bored.
Whoever was scheduling this, like, hey, I got this movie, I think it's gonna really cook here, way ahead of it. Like, I would investigate them personally. Like, how'd you know?
Steven, did you have I don't know, I'm assuming you didn't collect baseball cards, but any cards that had gum in them?
No. Cracker Jacks had gum in it for a hot minute.
I don't remember that.
Seems like a horrible combination.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. Because of the Wonder Egg or Kinder Egg surprise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Most of my childhood, you can't combine food with prizes. Like, you can't use it as an incentive. Like, you can't mix edibles and playthings together. So That was kind of of the era thing that was not part of my childhood because someone decided to choke on a rubber ball.
Yeah, like I can't tell you how many times we drove up to 7-Eleven, got a pack of cards, and then you're like, ooh, gum. Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah, they might accidentally eat a trading
You
card
didn't get cereal
and
box
sue.
toys or anything, Steven?
I did, but that was different. I don't know why
But they were
didn't
always
suffer
wrapped.
from that.
They were
wild.
always wrapped together.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a good question. I don't know why the cereal... I mean, I wouldn't mess with Kellogg. I guess they had just had, like, big rights because they big company, but... yeah, I think cereal was kind of the only thing that had, like, the prize and food combo in the same
Well, that's
package.
and so I mean that's what they did now with the current Kinder Egg situation is that when you open it, there's an area that has
It's like half toy and then like half candy.
Yeah, like they're separated. And so I think that's where the cereal market could get away with it because the cereal always had the toy or whatever it was always in its own packaging. Like if you ate that thing, it would be amazing. That
user error.
Yeah. They can get this
I would
down.
love to be in that courtroom.
Evolutionary
Like,
chart.
really? Like, I don't think they have a case here.
All right. What else? There was something else that I thought. Yes, we can go to scores. Card shops was the other one, like baseball card shops. That was something that I miss. I mean, I know they still exist, maybe, but
Yeah, we got card
oh,
shops.
they talked. This was on the radio, I think it was, or on the TV. They talked about somebody stabbing. As the kid walks, Mr. Keen. I wrote. I don't know. Walked off. Oh, the rich kid.
Yeah.
His dad was like, he said something about stabbing our waterbed. And I was like, oh man, I forgot I had a waterbed as a kid. Like I had a waterbed for a bunch of years.
Yo,
Yeah.
what?
My parents had one. My parents had a king size waterbed, and I was like, I want a waterbed. They're pretty awesome. Boy, Catherine, that started my back problems. Never, ever again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
that's
had
not something to invest in my midlife era. No. Okay.
No. It's
Have
fun.
you talked to your mom about that?
What?
How like she's the source of your back problems?
She'd probably say you wanted it, and I would have been like, yeah, I probably did.
It was
But yeah,
your
I had, like-
responsibility to stop me.
Yeah, no, it was fun for a minute, but then after a while, you're like, there is no support here. This is awful. Yeah, no, I had that bed for 10 years.
For what
at
it's
least.
worth, that bed's not made for sleeping.
Ooh, 10 years on a waterbed? Yikes.
Yeah, I was a kid, Cameron. We're not doing
All the more reason as to why there's. I'm sorry, ma'am. You want a twin-size waterbed? We don't make them.
They
They're
sold
the California King.
Yeah. No, I think my brother and I both. I know I had one. I'm pretty sure my brother had one too.
It's a family of waterbeds.
I can't.
Cut the footage. Delete.
Got the footage. All right, let's go into scores.
Let's score 64-bit Christmas.
Yep.
That's not the title.
Who would like to go first?
That was the first video game
Cam,
they wanted to show me.
go.
No, yes, I will. Nostalgia, 5 out of the gate on me. I did not know about this movie until last week. The time period, while I can relate to part of it, its entire amalgamation into the one. I know we mentioned the Goldbergs, and that's always irked the hell out of me from the Goldbergs perspective too, is they just kind of just mash stuff together and say it's the 80s, and it's like there's 10 years in there, so let's be specific. So like that part did bring me down a little bit, but overall, I can relate back to that time period. The production and the shots on it, I know Nick was trying to fall back to more, flashbacky times, but I like the shots. I really like the hill and the perspective on that. They made it look so ominous, and Jaworski so big, which he really was. I mean, 17-year-old kid running around like 8-year-olds and stuff. He was a giant and an ogre. Obviously, we talked about some of the missteps. I didn't even notice the digital ice on there. I probably would have knocked it down more. I'm not gonna mid change because you brought it up, but yeah. So I thought it looked good, especially for a pandemic movie too, considering how much was stalled and what they were working with. Spirit.
Hold on.
7.
What's the score?
Hold on. Yeah. What was your score? You did this last
7,
time.
7.
You ran through it, and I was like, I'm editing the last one, and I'm like, he didn't even give a score. I'm like, I can calculate it at the end.
Sir, your score.
So should we say the number first
7.
and then go into our reasoning?
Maybe.
Yes.
Sure.
I thought 7. I did that while I was looking, but 7 on production.
Okay.
I'm going 7 on Spirit. I did think that they set out to make a sappy Christmas movie, and they hit that mark. They pulled at the human heartstrings and from the family blah 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 emotion. So they did it. I think that they were going to recreate a modern day Christmas story. So yeah, there you go. But have an original idea. Rewatchability 3. I will probably never watch this movie again. If only to see the other jokes in it. But as far as a Christmas movie, I think it has to resonate with you in for your Christmas. So, obviously we saw Scrooge before and I missed this one, but Home Alone is probably something that I watched a lot during that time period. We also, Jingle All the Way, things like that, I think fall more into my rewatchability and nostalgia side to it. But it wasn't a bad watch, but I don't see myself doing it again. And overall, I would say it's a 6. A decent Christmas movie, but it's not Home Alone. It's not Christmas Story. And I think that's just because I'm past that magical part of the holiday season thing. Not to be all Scrooged, but as a kid, when you're expecting, when you're getting presents and you're getting these things that you've wanted hoping for, when you finally get those things, those are much more monumental. And as adults, I don't find I'm in the same space because I can just buy what I want, kind of.
I am trying to recapture the shit out of Christmas, and if I can figure out how to inject myself with it, let's go. You got it in a vial. Let's go.
I mean, I definitely like the season, but it definitely has been more over commercialized, especially in the timing when marketing and everything changes, really pounded into your head pretty early. At the end of the day, it's probably more about your family than it is crap around the tree. Yeah. And that's what this movie tried to bring home and resonate with everyone. Total score 28. Giving it 56% is not the worst movie that I've seen. I feel there are better Christmas movies, but all things considered, it's definitely worth a watch.
Okay.
Probably moved around a little bit too much on that one. Sorry.
All right, Catherine, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm gonna match Cam with a 5 on nostalgia and bias.
Okay.
Also. I didn't grow up in the 80s. I didn't have that holiday madness, nor do I remember doing any sort of crazy holiday shopping, any of that, or just desperately wanting something. So I don't feel like I related too much to the character or the time period. As much as I enjoy watching 80s films, this just didn't resonate with me in that sense. But I did have a Super Nintendo growing up, so I do remember doing some of that retro gaming. Production value, I did give it an 8. I thought the costumes and just the cars and the set pieces, they all felt very accurate to the time.
The Esprit boots.
Yeah. Yes.
Purple.
We have the same boots.
It means cool in French.
I really liked a lot of the humor in the film as well. There's a lot of really great quotes throughout the movie. I wrote some of them down, especially like the janitor at the store when he's like, there are two ladies, yes. One punched a grandma in the throat, they're from the same family. Or, Mom, he thinks your wreath sucks. Like, that was hilarious.
What's wrong with this wreath? We got a wreath already.
Yeah. Totally.
And there's like some really fun techie music that fit with the theme of the film. So I gave the production value an 8. And then spirit and emotional value and intent, I think they did hit the mark with what they were wanting. I'm going to give that an 8. I'm going to be honest with this one. With A Christmas Story, Ralphie got his BB gun in the end. Jake did not get his Nintendo. He had to work for that. Yeah. I know that was the point of the story and the message the father is trying to give to the daughter, but I felt robbed not seeing him get that Nintendo. I was like, I watched this whole dang movie for him to not open a Nintendo at the end of the movie. So I was just a little disappointed.
And we got the real close with the light bright. Yeah.
Yeah, the light bright.
Like, here it is. Nope.
Gotcha. Yes, turn off. Exactly. It was a tease, that's for sure. Like, I understand, like, he had that special moment with his father with the tree house, and it was cool.
Do you?
I thought it was, like, I understood the message, but I still wanted him to get the Nintendo. That's just me.
He got the Nintendo.
He did, but he had to work for it. That's just my opinion.
The Christmas sucked, by the way.
Yeah. But we watched this whole dang movie and he didn't get it. Anyway.
Think about Jake. He had to go through that whole thing. That kid puked up 2 cans of SpaghettiOs. Everyone watched it get destroyed, too.
That poor teacher got it right in the face, too.
Rex.
Whew. Anyway, rewatchability, I gave it a 5. I have seen this before, and I completely forgot the film, and then rewatched it a few years later, and I can remember why. I was not too into watching this one again, so rewatch is 5, maybe lower. And then overall, 7. I thought it was still fun. There was a lot of great humor. It was a fun flashback to the 80s. And I think they did overall, like, hit the mark with that, warm, fuzzy Christmas film. So, overall, 33 out of 50, giving me a 66%.
Okay. Steven, nice. You are up.
I am up. Okay, so nostalgia bias, obviously, pretty high. I've been wanting to see this. It's handmade for me. It's a good time. Touches all spectrums of what I would want in a movie, so I gave it an 8. On production value, I had some of the hang-ups with just like I don't like puke. I don't. It's gross. It's yucky. It's not funny. It just doesn't, like, there's so many ways you could do it. There's so many fun ways you could do a long-term distraction child hero sequence. They opted not to do that, so that automatically sets my bar down quite a bit, because then you're talking about mindset of what you're talking your hero characters through. That's just me.
How do you feel about diarrhea?
Honestly,
oh yeah, that song. Oh, that was nostalgic. That song.
I hadn't heard that one in a bit.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about, but it's above vomit for whatever reason.
Okay,
don't know why.
Sliding into home and you feel some bone diarrhea.
Man.
Okay.
You did not sing that song as a child,
It's an
Steven?
80s thing. No, it was probably my original aversion was saving me.
I guess I was special because I do remember singing that song.
You're older than me, so I'm the young gun.
All those juicy
you
turds
are the wee
in
babe
the
of the
third.
group.
wee
Yes.
babe. So I gave it a 7. Similar grievances. We don't have to unpack those. Spirit, I gave it a 9. I thought it set out to do what it was intending to do. Especially when you have the mindset of unreliable narrator, and like he's like kind of obliterating the lines of that decade, especially like Nintendo fanboy, all that good stuff. Rewatchability, I gave it a 7. I really enjoyed it. It hits all of the buttons for me where I'm at in my life, because I have relation to the grandfather, the dad, and the child, like from different perspectives, as far as like it's not going to be that great of a Christmas this year, or it's you know, I love video games, like I remember like wanting these things so bad. A majority of my NES experience was Christmas at my grandmother's house, because my uncle, who was in college at the time, left his NES on the CRT. That was our first. That was our first. Yeah. We Christmas.
Sweet.
Like, we weren't bothering the adults. They could catch up. It was just me and my brothers at the time, because we were the eldest of the eldest. So it was just us 3 against the world playing NES on Christmas. Like, that was the
Like
vibe.
Duck
And we played Duck Hunt.
Jaworskis.
We played like Desert Strike on the Sega Genesis. Like, that was how we got our problems, was from having that annual like it was every holiday over there we did that, but the annual tradition of spending hours with the NES on Christmas. So like right on the bullseye for me. So rewatchability is 7, and overall a 7. I think they had great intention. Who's to say budgetary constraints, COVID, maybe some writing discrepancies, working with the actors. I feel like NPH dialed it in at some points, probably was dying. It happens. But kid actors did very well. I hope they all have great careers. Usually I'm a little bit affronted by some of the performa that kid actors can bring on a lower budget film.
Younglings,
but it hit all the
Younglings.
buttons for me. Putting it at a 39, putting it at 78. So right with like Lost Boys, like I think it's a good holiday film as far as
Just like Lost Boys.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly
No.
the same.
Yep.
That's just fun
Yeah.
fact. That's where I
Mom,
rated
Steven,
it.
hold on.
Why don't you think we saw Mom at all in this? What was she doing? She was hunting vampires. During
Yeah,
the day.
exactly.
Yeah.
39 out of 50.
I love.
No, 30. You said 87977.
Yes.
I'm keeping track of you guys. That's 38%, which is a 76.
Oh. Okay.
That's how the math works.
That's
I
how-
also just loved how the mom knew where everything was. She's like, it's in the butter dish in the fridge. Why would it be in the butter dish in the fridge?
She had a
Moms know
system.
that.
Yes, they do.
I know. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yes, they do. I just had an
I do that all the
instance
time
where
with-
I had to fetch a tissue box. I was like, it's not where it's supposed to be. She's like, it's right next to that. I'm like, well,
You
was it
gotta
right
move things, Steven.
there? No, like if it does, it like.
I'm working on that with Josh. You gotta pick up and move things.
I don't know. Have you ever seen like where the video where he throws something away and it's an empty trash can and it just disappears? That's how I see the world.
Oh.
If it's not where it's supposed to be, it doesn't exist. Like,
What is that thing with like what is it, like young children, babies, if it's like gone, you're completely disappeared.
oh yeah,
yeah.
object permanence. Yeah,
Thank
never
you,
got
object
that.
permanence. Yeah.
never.
You never
No.
got rid of that, Steven.
Yeah, and there's a height difference between us. Shocking, because I'm not like 6 foot by any means. So she's like, just look lower. I was like, lower, and then it was it's just like,
there it is.
Magic.
It's like 2 shelves down from where I would put it. So
I think Josh was hunting for something in the fridge. He's like, it's not there. I'm like, I swear to God. And I get up and have to look for it for you. And I just like scooch the ketchup over, and he's like, it wasn't there. I
it wasn't
swear."
there. Oh my god, it's just up here.
Refrigerator gnomes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, they
I'm
put
a
gremlins in
simple
everything
man.
these days.
Yum, yum.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steven, you had a 38 out of 50, so that's a 76%.
Okay. Yeah. A little bit lower than Lost Boys. I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah. Okay. All right.
Geometry
so,
is not my strong suit.
Yeah. And that's
Is
why
this
that's
geometry?
why we got there. Yeah.
Geography, sorry.
So my nostalgia for this is at an 8. Selling wreaths and the wrapping paper, the cars, everything of this time period landed right in this movie, and it very much threw me back into everything. The production value, I gave it a 7.5. The costumes were well done. The cars there was a lot of music in that era that was there. Some of the things, the TV issue, again, we're skirting those, what we know
It was
to be
100-inch
true,
CRT that
yeah,
fell
yeah.
on the
You were a
dock.
child. It was the most, yeah. So that wasn't really the ice thing. Kind of, I don't want to say pissed me off a little bit, but it was just like, come on,
Sounds
guys,
like
let's
it
let
did.
out.
Let it out.
Yeah, again, it was one of those things that I shouldn't be nitpicking.
Salty Nick.
But
Did you even watch the edit after you were done?
the
You have to watch it after it renders. Come on.
NPH's voiceover through most of it seemed like it was slapped on. And I don't know why. I don't know if this was they weren't leaning into the Christmas story of it all, and then they were like, oh, well, if we put him as the narrator over top all of the things that happen, this can kind of be the Christmas story again. It sounded like the movie was mixed, and then they were like, oh, we should go back and record some voiceover, and it was just very overmodulated and trying to it felt like it was ham-fisting this voiceover over top what was happening. You could hear it, but it was driving me nuts. This is what I do for a living, and to not have that all mixed properly frustrated me. So I knocked some points off for that. So that was a 7.5 in production value. I gave for Spirit, I gave it an 8. They did a great job bringing back the 80s. Again, I remember, King of the Hill and the older kid in the neighborhood, and just the overall feeling of Christmas and leading up to Christmas. I don't know if all of you had a teacher that would do this shit with her snot rag.
Ew,
No.
I was like,
That
yo,
was vile.
I was like, I haven't thought about that in
come here.
40 years. But she was like, honk, good. And I had teachers that did that, and I was like, ugh, gross. Gross. So that, and then I know Stephen made a motion to this when Cam talked about it, but the end of the movie when
Fucking
we
Christ.
land, I know I was waiting. If no one was going to bring it up, I was bringing it up. Man, I got through this whole goddamn movie, and I was like, everything's great. This is a fun, beautiful Christmas movie. Oh yeah, Dad's dead, and we're remembering him, and I'm like, I mean, he obviously had died at some point in time, but man, it was just punch in the balls, and I was just like, ugh, and I was like, come on, not what I want right now. And so Steve Zahn kind of looks like my dad too, and that was also a big. I noticed this. What were we watching? I want to say what was the White Lotus show, or maybe it was some other movie. But I've always
he was in
kind
White
of
Lotus.
I've kind of noticed that Steve Zahn has a similarity to my father: haircut, facial structure, body type, So that on top of just all the life lessons he was teaching him, and then we get to that dinner scene. And it's just like, hey, we're telling nice stories, and they cut to the shot of the empty plate, and I was like, and I was just like, I can't. Thanks, movie, thanks. Let me pull my tissue out and just
Cue the Christmas music.
Man, it was just ready and gotcha.
It's like those TikToks of the kids where they just just nail you.
Oh, thanks. And then text my girlfriend after. I was like, I was watching a Christmas movie. Everything was good.
No, was good.
No, they hit me with the Uno reverse. Dang it.
I guess it wasn't that sad. It's still not like, I've made, obviously it's been a long time, so I've made my peace with it, and it's happy. It's the memories of all that time. And so, yeah, that really, really resonated with me. Again, I'm going through this whole movie like, yeah, I remember being a kid, and then I was like, right hook, and you're like, what the? I wasn't expecting that.
I will say there was part of me, just given the comedic styling of this whole movie, where he's like, oh yeah, your father, we miss him so. He's like, oh sorry, I was late, and he came in I had a late
yeah.
That would have fit them, and they're like, no, he's just gone. It's like, ah.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna murder him in the car in 5 minutes from that scene. It was like, we gotta really get on the road early, and I was like, that's it. That was the last time we saw Dad. But no, they waited until much later to drop that. And yes, they pulled on all of the human heartstrings.
They really did. So the rewatch, I gave it a 7. I will definitely rewatch this movie again. Not gonna run to it the first time around, but I know that if I either want a good cry,
he's too busy watching Godzilla.
Christmas time.
Yeah, if I want some good reminiscing of the time period of going to the kid's house that had all the toys, or the Nintendo or whatever. Again, I don't know if I was that kid. I know I had a Nintendo, and a lot of the kids came over my house, but we were by no means came from very working class, so we didn't, we had what we had, but we weren't the rich kid in the neighborhood who had all the toys, but everyone just came to my house to play. So rewatch 7, definitely going to rewatch this movie again. And I gave an overall 7.5, and it was I thought it was a really, really well done modern retelling, moved up, 40 years up into my childhood and Cam's childhood. So that gives me a 38 out of 50 at a 76% as well. So we did pretty good there. I do enjoy this movie. I've already told a couple people to watch it.
Yeah. It's a tight spread on scores. I like that.
Yeah.
Besides Cam, who's
Hey,
old
hey,
ass
hey,
man.
hey, hey.
Hey, we got last week, so we're good.
Yeah.
We got a winner last week with Cam.
I mean, that's the best score you're gonna get out of me for 2024. We'll see you next year.
We'll see you next year.
All right, Steven, you want to round us out with some plugs before we get out of here?
Go into the holiday season checking out some great content. I know you've got downtime. You've got Katherine over at Spectacle Views doing the best Disney millennial life. There's wonderful things going on over there. Speaking of capitalism, check that out for all of your Disney needs.
True story, yeah.
Yeah.
You got Cam, more capitalism with Call of Duty, Black Ops 6. It's popping off. I'm sure there's going to be some Christmas time event, and you can check that out. Never Touching Grass.
More capitalism?
More capitalism. And even more capitalism over at Fire Hazard 508 Creations, where you can make playthings into display things, which he's doing over there with things like G.I. Joe, Marvel, all those things are over on his channel. You can check out even more capitalism on Funky Games, where we play through all the quintessential video games. If you're feeling nostalgic or you never got to play through those video games, we're doing it over at my channel at Funky Games.
And then even more capitalism at the Funky Store.
At Funky Store, where you can get all the great nostalgia merch. Funky.store. You got some Christmas gifts you got to get. It's going to show up on time. You check that out. It will. You just order it. It's made in St. Louis. It's great. Funky.store.
Let's go.
All right. Well, it's been a blast. Merry Christmas.
Snowball fight?
Happy holidays. Let's
Only
go have
with
a
my power
snowball
glove.
fight. Yeah. The TV just fell, and everyone run. Mom's coming.
Flee.
All right.
Reminded.
Bye, guys. Thanks for
All right,
joining us.
see ya. Yep.
Bye.